I've been so excited for this all week.
I know.
Ever since they announced it. This is like, I've been waiting for her to talk to somebody who's not going to be super easy on her.
So the Brett Baier, Kamala Harris interview just wrapped. And I saw about 20 minutes of 30 minutes. And it was not good. I mean, what they did is that they essentially up-armored her to go in a defensive crouch for the entire interview. In other words, not answer any question that he asks, but use the time to slam Trump, which is a strategy.
Yeah.
It works better if you're a politician who's ever answered a question. But she has never done it. So she's kind of the wrong person to do this to. Her brand is can't answer a question, won't answer a question. And so she walks right into her brand, and that's not a good brand.
No, it's an unserious brand.
Yes. So it's not great. I mean, she, in a sense, like it seems like she had like 6 glasses of wine and like railed a whole bunch of coke, and so she was like had a steam, but she still didn't say anything but her Trump platitudes.
So I think people who are Kamala fans have stuff to go like, yeah, over. Like, she showed him, because she did slam Trump. So if that's what you're looking for, is just for her to say, like, Trump's a threat to democracy, Brett, like, then you got that, I guess?
And so she would repeatedly dodge and demand that this is too important. Trump is a piece of crap. So let's start with some border stuff.
Do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm responding to the point you're raising,
okay,
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things.
Wait, can you pause her for a second?
Sure.
This is an interesting framing for her to take, to say that because we knew that this was a huge priority to the American people, we offered a huge amnesty bill on day one.
Well, right.
As well as, by the way, on day one, signing a bunch of executive orders, including terminating Remain in Mexico, including all these things that wrecked the border that people don't like. But to say, like, the border's a priority to the American people, so we passed a bill that had something to do, or we put forward and didn't pass a bill that had something to do with the border on day one. That doesn't answer the question if the bill was to give everybody citizenship who was crossing the border illegally.
This was amnesty that they knew wouldn't go anywhere, but at least they'd have moments like this that they could point back to it. But it was an amnesty bill. That's absolutely right. And the thing is that Brett Baier interrupted her because he knows this spiel that she's going to get into.
Right.
Both the bill and talk about how Donald Trump tried to killed the bill earlier this year, so he tried to cut it off so he could save more time because he knew that she had the House and Senate. So what she's doing now is demanding he let her finish her spiel, which he's doing yes ma'aming and letting her do it, which is, I guess you got to do that somewhat. But, I mean, she's exposed already.
I feel like you could have done
address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done.
By the way, that bill was this year and probably wouldn't have been implemented yet.
Well, right. The bill that they put forward on day one was this like Citizenship Act that he refers to that was an amnesty bill. Now, you know, Tommy in New Hampshire in the chat raises a good point. He says, you know, from day one, I've done absolutely nothing. Dave in Florida says on day one, I stood by while gas was thrown on the fire. Like, that's what her answer was like. It's like, I recognize that this fire is very important to the American people. So on day one, took action about the fire. But the action was to make the fire worse, not better. Like, what's wrong with you?
And it's not a good thing that they don't have anything new for
Well,
tonight.
because people know, honestly, if the border was bad under Trump and if it was bad under Biden. So we can see what you did on day one versus what Trump did on day one.
Right.
And
on day
Trump
one,
is build a wall guy.
On day one, in the first months of the Biden administration, they loudly celebrated
ending Remain in Mexico.
Exactly.
In the presidential debates, Biden said surge to the border.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
As the Attorney General, former Attorney General
Did she
of a border
prosecute
state,
Madam Vice President,
criminal
a couple of things.
prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns,
I mean,
and
do we
human
know that
beings,
for
and
sure?
drugs.
Has anybody
Let me
found
just finish.
video
Democrats
evidence of
voted
this?
against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing
Six
it.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it.
So there's the border bill.
Yeah, and PMO JMO in the chat says deliberately conflating the two bills.
Of course.
Of course. You know, I mean, they knew that both of these bills were dead on arrival. The first one's never even like brought forward to Congress, really. You know, the executive branch doesn't draft legislation. They can make suggestions from the sidelines, but they don't really get to do it. And this whole thing is, you know, yeah, but I mean, in a way, sometimes I feel a little bit bad for her in the sense that, like, she hasn't been left with the best record to run on.
No, I don't feel bad for her.
I mean, like,
she's a
just
cretin.
because, like,
She's
I mean, yeah, she's an idiot. She shouldn't be where she
and
is.
it's-
All this stuff, but like, she shouldn't be where she is, and she has no answers because her administration that she's a part of has done a terrible job, and she has to defend a record that is indefensible, frankly, and. You know, she didn't have that much to do with it just because she's so dumb. She didn't really cause any of these decisions.
Yeah, but
she just stood around while all this happened around her.
Biden also was an especially cynical piece of crap, bad person as president. And he was happy to gaslight, happy to, this was, remember at the border when when Biden lied about Haitians being whipped?
Mm-hmm.
There's Joe Biden at the podium. This is what he said to the American people.
But it was horrible what to see, as you saw. To see people treated like they did, horses barely running them over, people being strapped, it's outrageous. I promise you those people will pay.
This guy's a piece of... He is.
Yeah.
And she was right there.
That's why Trump has rallies with Border Patrol agents standing around him, shaking his hand and glad to be there, and Kamala Harris doesn't.
And she was right there. They effed this up. Not only is Biden an asshole, but he sucks at everything. And his stupid vice president is
she's going to suck worse.
Vacuous, just waste of life.
I mean, Obama is
They
malicious.
will be an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences. There will be consequences. It's
Border
an
Patrol
embarrassment.
doing their job because they made up. They deflected. It's not about the border chaos that he and she created. It's about the mean law enforcement. Remember, Trump is divisive.
Right.
No, look, Haitians. Look, there's more brown people that white people in authority are beating up. You see?
Right, of course. Of course, but I mean, like, this is the progression, is that Obama is malicious and, like, doesn't really like America, probably, but Obama at least is competent and self-serving, so he doesn't want to leave himself with, like, too absurdly bad a legacy. Biden is still malicious, but still self-serving and less competent than Biden. Now, Kamala's
Kamala.
just, like, the stupidest person
Obama.
in the room, and she's incapable of building herself any legacy whatsoever. Like, this is only going downhill from here.
Okay, let's get to some more highlights.
You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country.
I hate to break it to Kamala, but they're not going to, if she wins, execute Trump after this election.
Right.
So he's still going to be around. If he can kill bills in Congress just by existing outside, as somebody raises in the chat, with Mick in the chat says, how does one civilian sway Congress?
Yep.
Donald Trump is still going to be around as a civilian after she's elected if she wins. So, like, you know, if she's counting all of the Biden administration under the reign of evil Trump. So if he can have that kind of influence from outside of the presidency, like, I hate to break it to her, but he's still going to be there.
Well,
so how is she going to turn the page if he still wielded all this incredible influence during the Biden administration? How is she going to turn the page? Like, she's not allowed to just guillotine him, right? This isn't...
Well, right.
We're not at that level of the revolution.
We're also not... The presidential terms aren't 10 years. It's very odd because
so
Donald Trump
has
been a very loud member of society since 1980.
Yeah.
And we managed to have so many other, presidents make it through all this stuff.
And have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests
point fingers at each other. The white border patrol is strapping the Haitians, just so you know, more black people, just so you know, point fingers at each other. The authors of the Summer of George Floyd, which I don't even know if we're going to get time to get to that.
The strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know.
There we go. Who you
the
lift
strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
You know what she is? She's the freaking Live, Laugh, Love campaign. We don't tear each other down.
Oh, yeah.
We fix each other's crowns.
Well, right.
Like, do you just write everything in curly font and you're like, that's a good campaign slogan?
Yeah, did that idiot poet, get hired as a main speechwriter?
More than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about.
No.
You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become... But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president.
Yeah, but he's probably winning in the battleground states right now. And those are the people
at least tied.
Right.
At least tied. I mean, it's certainly... So, and we can get into polls if we have time at some point here, but this is better than Donald Trump has polled at this point in any one of his presidential campaigns to date. So, like, I mean, say what you want about pollsters, say what you want about Nate Silver, say what you want about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and mail-in ballots and all the rest of it, but, you know, Donald Trump has never pulled this well against Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or anyone else ever.
Right.
Ever.
Right. No, exactly.
One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable.
But so this is what she's doing here, trying to round out the clock with the question he asked is, you've been VP for the past 4 years, what's the change? And the change is Donald Trump will be silenced. It's like, what a lack of self-confidence answer that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's a fifth level down.
The change is Donald Trump will go away once I'm elected. Like,
yeah, so they couldn't do anything. It's terrible now because Trump's been around.
he kept talking while we were president.
That he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader.
They're apparently not exhausted.
Yeah, I mean,
with him.
And there's some big percent of people who don't like either of the presidential choices.
Yes, but
who
the
wish
numbers show
Trump
that the American
wasn't
people are not
running,
exhausted.
Yeah, they're either they're exhausted, either they're not exhausted, or they're not exhausted enough to want you.
Well, right. And every time they think they're exhausted, then they experience you and they're refreshed.
Who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances, and it being about him instead of the American people.
Personal grievances, that is beautiful too, because it's like, how many lawsuits, convictions, and friends of his have to go to jail?
Well, right. And so,
personal grievances, you're taking away his businesses.
Right. Yeah. You have personal grievances against him because he makes you guys feel uncomfortable and makes you guys need to go to therapy and take psychotropic medications to deal with how he makes you feel. That's what's really going on here. And this is where I started to get, I love Brett Baier. I don't want to yell at him. And I think he did a good job. And I know he has people in his ear telling him time this, time that, you need to get to XYZ, whatever. Like, I wish every interview had unlimited time. This is why I wish Kamala would go on Rogan or something like that, where it's like open-ended and they could sit there forever and just go back and forth. But this is where I started to like yell at Brett Baier as I'm listening to the interview in my headphones before we went on. It's like, because she's answering this and I just want to start like shouting things out, right? I want to start being like, but he's not president, right? You want to start, what did you just play? Because I had it in my head and I forgot it because I wanted to like push back on this so bad. And I'm thinking in my head, and it happened again then when she started saying
and
about
that people
Biden.
Are exhausted.
Right.
With someone who professes.
Right, so people are exhausted, this, that, Trump's so divisive, everyone dislikes Trump. Like, what does it say about you, lady, that you're polling 50-50 with this guy? You have the worst poll numbers of any Democrat against Trump ever at this point in the election cycle. You're polling worse than Hillary Clinton was. You're polling worse than Joe Biden was. What does it tell you that with as bad as you say Trump is, 50% of America would rather see him there than you? Like, what are they seeing about you?
Well, right. That's
like, there's zero self-reflection. Trump is so divisive. Trump this, Trump this, Trump this, Trump that. Like, but it's clear that everybody that she talks to thinks that this election is a referendum on Trump.
She's essentially just campaigning in the Fox News studio.
Yeah,
but the problem
but the
is
audience
for her,
isn't a Kamala Harris rally here.
Right. The problem is for her, the idea isn't that you can walk into the Fox building and not have an aneurysm. The idea is that you walk into the Fox building and you don't turtle and hide and do the prevent defense.
Right, you're supposed to talk to new people in Fox News building.
Well,
that's the idea. That's what Brian Stelter told us this week, this is Kamala Harris's big opportunity to go talk to people who've never heard Trump called a fascist ever by anyone.
A leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States. Why is that happening?
Thank you, Brett.
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within.
Why does Trump have so much support? It's not supposed to be easy. The frig is that an answer to?
That's what Doug tells her when she comes home, and she's like, why don't they like me?
Right.
Enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
There is not one viewer to this who is a Fox News viewer who believes that literally. This whole thing, that he's going to turn the military. He's going to attack you with the military. It's like, how many different things have these people gone from? The reason why he's unacceptable. You know, it's like amazing.
He's going to do this. He's going to do that. Like, you guys told us all this before.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed in all fairness.
I know. He's acknowledging Trump said it, and he's showing her how he expanded on it this morning.
Right.
So that's not, you didn't show that. Okay.
I'm telling you that was the question that we asked him.
He didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has
He
repeated
didn't have to show it. He accepted the premise that he said it.
Right.
it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American...
Now she sounds like a shitty manager to have. You know that. You know that. You and I both know that. It's like, why are you yelling at me, you incompetent?
military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because...
He has not talked about that. That is not true. He didn't talk about going after people in peaceful protest.
Meanwhile, your Justice Department is literally pursuing him on a whole bunch of charges to actually lock him up.
A 19-year-old girl from Canterbury, Connecticut, was pounced on by squads of Chevy Suburbans with feds for walking around in the Capitol after the door was open, looking around.
Right.
That's who has it.
They disagree with him. This is a democracy. And
she starts yelling here.
In a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat.
Was
this tells you, by the way,
Dylan Mulvaney quote not available? It's like, you're bringing Mark Milley?
Well, doesn't that tell you that she or people on her staff listened to that Brian Stelter cut that we heard yesterday or the day before, whenever we played that, when he was like, she has to quote Mark Milley telling the Fox News viewers that Trump is a fascist, because they'll never have heard that before. Like, that somebody there thought that this was Kamala's big opportunity. If they hear that Mark Milley said Trump was a threat, they'll really,
bring in
the Fox News
bring in
viewer.
an Adam Kinzinger quote. That'll do it for them.
Tell them that the Cheneys and Karl Rove really like Kamala.
Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump.
The significance of that.
You call Donald Trump he's misguided. You say now
He's
he
unstable.
is unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched in...
Pause in the history of presidential candidate interviews. Can you go back to the question and play that again, please? Sure. The long pause.
Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf.
He has, she said. He has. So why does he have to go away?
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Why? Maybe he should be president. Jeez, he makes really good. He has the judgment and experience to be president. Maybe he should be running for president. Any word on why maybe he's not
what
here
happened
right
to
now?
him?
The American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And
But
Why? Why is that, Kamala? Where is the guy? It's weird. He was going to be on the ballot.
I swear I saw Biden's signs.
3 months ago, he was telling us he was absolutely, definitely going to be on the ballot.
And anytime we questioned that, you told us it was a cheap fake.
Right. We were lying. Misinformation.
But you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week.
She is certainly a little drunk. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I understand. Who hasn't been there where you've been in a situation where you're scared to talk to somebody and you like have a shot or 4 beforehand?
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
Years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to...
Wait. Why was the job you have now open?
Well, and by the way, let the record show. The record show. Hundreds of people in this administration told us that Biden was fit.
Including her personally on calls with people after the debate where he froze up and had a stroke in the middle of the stage.
Choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam
Okay,
Vice
but
President.
the Democrats didn't just have to choose another running mate. They had to choose another person for both parts of the ticket.
So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, 2 more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat.
Stop her there! Stop her!
We can. The next thing's about Iran, where she does the same thing.
We don't have to. Time. So the chat's been talking about that, how she called Iran the biggest threat, saying that that's a play for the Israel crowd without having to talk about Israel, which shows too much. That shows too much alliance with Jewish people for the Michigan voters. So she can't really say that she's for Israel, but so people in the chat are saying she picked Iran because of that, because that shows some I think that's kind of a smart idea, if so.
Well, but he made the point that
Tommy New Hampshire says she's just dumb and forgot China.
Yeah.
It's also possible. And Brett Baier kind of says that. He says all the people we talked to said you were going to say China. Clearly, I think for them, saying Putin probably was not a good idea.
For who?
I think I think that the like sort of blue anon Democrat answer would be to say Putin is the greatest geopolitical threat.
Yeah, I
you
guess.
know, because like the very like Democrat people are like, you know, Putin got Trump elected and Trump's in Putin's pocket and this stuff, like, and the Ukraine thing and that whole like. So I think that's probably choosing China or choosing Iran was probably a better answer, and Iran is probably the weaker of the two for her to choose.
The end of the day takeaway is, we don't have to do the Iran stuff if you don't want to, but at the end of the day takeaway is this, is she's incapable of thinking. She's incapable of answering.
How did they not prepare
she
for
can't,
the like, why did you cover up that Biden was in decline question? Like, how did they not prepare for that?
Because all these questions are indefensible, so they just gave her attack.
Just talk
rhetoric.
about Trump.
Exactly. No, seriously, that's it. And that
we
way
don't
they
have
can,
anything on Biden.
And that way
just
they
talk
can
about Trump.
say, the same way they can say that they had an immigration bill on day one, they can say that she did Fox News. See, I did Fox News, and I survived Fox News, and I shows you that I'm not. I don't think this does.
I mean, that's true. She did go take questions from not an easy questioner.
I do think that a real politician and somebody like J.D. Vance, and I'll even say something like Bill Clinton, would have answers ready. And this goes to the juvenile aspect of her campaign and the fact that you have 27-year-old know-nothing cupcakes who were briefing her. There is a way to answer every single one of these questions where a Fox News watcher would be about to say, yeah, and you could charm them. You could give them food for thought. There's a way to do it. One of the ways to do it would be take the L on one of these things. Just be a human about it. That would be so refreshing, because one of the problems with this campaign and this administration is that it's been relentless gaslighting. You know, they celebrated the historic airlift in Afghanistan after people were falling out of the wheel well and a bunch of American troops got...
Right.
They never relented at all. And for her, and of course Biden people are involved in this campaign, for her to not relent on one thing, on anything, maybe I could have done that better, maybe I could have done... Nothing. She's not a human. These people are just fucking con men and women in Washington, D.C. They're just pieces of bleep. They are. And like, you could have done it. And they do not whatsoever. There's nothing human about it.
Well, you'd also have to have somebody working for the campaign who would have thought about these things in advance, because they would have to like be in circles where people are talking about this stuff and saying this stuff. Like, you'd have to have somebody who's like a moderate. I mean, I don't know if like a Liz Cheney or an Adam Kinzinger listens to enough stuff from outside their bubble to know, but like a James Carville clearly does.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you brought in a James Carville, even if you brought in a Bill Clinton, we never played that Bill Clinton cut from the other day. Him talking about Laken Riley.
I think we did.
Did we play it on this show?
I'm pretty sure.
I know you played it to me, but I don't remember if we played it on this show. Tell me,
here.
guys. But there are people who do know.
From the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries happened during his presidency.
Well, you know what? You got to take responsibility for what happened in your administration.
But do you support it or not, Kamala?
Right.
That's a question. Do you like he didn't pass the policy. It's not his law.
Right.
he didn't support. He says he doesn't support it. Do you say you support it, or you not say you support it? Because I didn't hear an answer.
Right, and once again, this hiding from and it's another way.
But I think we both know, like, we know who's a candidate who's for a border wall and for a tougher border policy. Like, we know who the candidate is who's more for gender transition surgeries in the prison system.
Yes.
Right.
So, and it's hard. It's a hard thing. So she's obviously, I mean, she's a politician, so obviously she's a liar. But she's lying about things that we all witnessed over the last 4 years. She's also extracted herself out of the narrative of the last 4 years. Yeah. We all know we're being lied to. But the American people right now are being lied to in a way that's not effective because the liars themselves are midwits. These aren't people who are good at this lying. The fact that she'll stay there, say that with a straight face, and pretend to be angry and passionate about this stuff means that she's soulless and a hack and in a political form of a prostitute. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. But people can sense when they're being had or when somebody's trying to do that. And that's what's happening there. And it's like you know what this is? This is the diminishing returns of credentialism. It really is. These people who are so credentialed, she's a lawyer, et cetera, 7 years in school, et cetera, and all these other know-it-alls, Jake Sullivan, et cetera, they got ripped off. They weren't made smarter. They were made more arrogant in college, but not smarter.
Right.
And, like, the American people know. They can see when you're trying to perpetuate a fraud, and they just know it. So, like, one of the whole things is, like, the whole thing that is Tim Walz. Everybody knows what we're
being lied to.
Exactly. Everybody knows we're being lied to. And it's not even like a thing. Like, obviously, he literally lied about stuff, his resume and this and that, and of course, but at the core, we got it. And finally, there are some people, fringe people on the internet, who are saying what's obviously true. Like, by the time I was a teenager, I worked on a cruise ship when I was 15, and we had in the cruise ship, we would hang out after all the shows. There's a nightly show on every cruise ship, whatever, with all the dancers, the male dancers, etc. So, like, I've been hanging out with gay guys, as Tim and Kent will tell you, for a long time. And, like, Tim Walz is just in my opinion, he's just a gay guy. I mean, obviously, anybody who's had any life experience around, it's fine. But and I don't care. And, like, he's probably not the first gay guy to be possibly in the White House. Who cares? But it's just a sign of all the stuff that they're trying to pull off. And my friend Tucker Carlson.
Well, because they're trying to tell you that he's the manliest, most macho, straightest hunter. Definitely not gay, completely manly man that's ever walked the earth.
But the moment somebody says, mind your own damn business, then it's over. Okay, it's fine. It's not a problem. But maybe sometimes I feel like I stammer over this, so I'm going to cede it to my friend Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, we should try to book because he's selling they have a special series they're doing. This is Tucker Carlson on with Megyn Kelly today.
You know who is weird? Obviously, is Tim Walz. Like, I'm not going to go on about it, but that guy's weird. Like, let's be real. And anyway, I think J.D. Vance has been vindicated. And as someone who has sort of been flying the J.D. Vance flag for a while, I'm just thrilled. I never feel this way about politicians because I'm not a politician. I'm not friends with politicians. But in this one specific case, like, I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, Tim Walz has got, I mean, talk about not having control over one's emotions or one's body. Here's a little clip of him.
This is him seal clapping, pointing to the right, very choreographed. Weird high five with the woman, hug for the guy. Weird hands in the air, kicking.
Well, I was born in a small town.
He keeps bowing. I mean, I'm just going to say, I don't know any man who behaves like that.
Come on. I mean, come on. It's so I'm just trying to control myself because I don't want to be mean, and also I don't want to say things I can't prove. But like, let's be real. Let me just say, not connected necessarily to Tim Walz. I'm never going to take another lecture about gay rights from these people. Like, oh, you hate gays and you keep them all in the closet or whatever. Any party, stop with the lectures about that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
If you're in general, if you're so for gay rights, and that would mean that any member of your party who's gay would feel free to say so in public and would not be pretending not to be gay. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like, I hate the falseness of it. And by the way, last thing I'll say is I don't want to be mean, and I really think that people's private lives can be private if they want them to be private. I don't think you should have to announce everything you're into in public. I believe in privacy. I really do. And I don't think we should bother people on the basis of their private lives. I mean that. So, but they just push so hard. They're the ones who get into other people's private lives, lecturing your kids about sex and stuff that should be private. You know what I mean? Putting condoms on bananas. Yes. It's not just stay away. Let me have a private life. You can have a private life. Let's stop talking about other people's sex lives, other people's sexual orientations. Let's just all agree to shut up about that. Okay?
That's right.
I would be happy with that arrangement.
We don't care, and we don't want you talking to our children about it either.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Right,
so, all right. I guess first, I just want to hit before we go to the chat. I just want to hit just that CNN cut that we hit this morning because it's like such a incredible. We won't play the whole thing.
But there's so much more to get to with that. Because there's the Atlantic article and there's the Nayib Bukele stuff and.
Okay, so let's tease tomorrow's show by playing this. How about that?
Okay.
This is a CNN panel from. It's really, really one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. If CNN keeps this up, their ratings are going to go through the roof because this is like...
This was great.
This was just absolutely amazing. This is Ryan James Gurdusky.
Mm-hmm. It's a great Twitter follow, by the way.
He has a great Twitter follow. Is asked... in other words, Donald Trump is going to... The subject matter is Trump is going to turn American troops onto rioters or whatever, or protesters. Mm-hmm. It depends how you look at people trying to burn federal buildings. And he's asked by, is it Abby Phillips, maybe?
Abby Phillips, yeah.
He's asked by her.
By the way, Dave in Florida says your Thornton Mellon analogy was spot on.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. I want to bask in that a little bit more, Alice.
Okay.
Just yesterday, Ryan, about how, in the context of riots, he was saying, let's just bring the military into it to deal with American citizens. I mean, that happened yesterday.
Right, but the post-George Floyd riots resulted in an excess of over 15,000 black male deaths in this country. How?
Yeah.
The surge of violent crime, it was like Ferguson, the Ferguson effect and the Floyd effect.
Respectfully, you got to explain to me how George Floyd's death.
Yeah.
Because I need causation here.
Yes, because what happens is
here.
after the Ferguson riot and after the Floyd riot, policemen, in fear of their jobs many times and political coverage, pull back from their jobs, resulting in an increased level of homicide.
I got to stop you there because, hold on.
You can look at the Washington.
By the way, there are a bunch of studies on this. People have done a bunch of studies on places where there were riots versus where there weren't and looked at the differential in the rise in violent crime and came up with these numbers.
But just think.
Like, people doing studies found this.
They are already so, incensed and offended
that he said
by
that.
St. George Floyd's narrative being questioned at all.
Literally making a connection out of your own conjecture.
No,
you cannot.
It's a real thing.
That.
Look up the Ferguson effect. Look up the Floyd effect. It is a real term.
You cannot.
It's a real term. I didn't make this up.
Invent a connection between two things just because you want that connection to be there.
It's like a name. It's a real thing.
Where's the producer here shouting in her ear? Oh yeah, it is a thing. It is a thing.
Well, they don't. The producers also don't know that it's a thing. They've never fact-checked this claim because they've never heard of this claim. It's complete. This is all completely new information.
You don't fact-check,
to everyone
George.
in that room, to everyone in the production studio, to everybody there, to everybody with access to a microphone to talk into her ear. Nobody's heard of that, and they're all blown away.
It could be a repeating, but doesn't mean it's accurate.
Let's mix them up all the time because
let's all move on.
Look it up. I'll send you a reading list after the show.
Before we move on, I think
there's a shot.
Hold on. I just want everyone to settle down because people cannot hear at home when everybody's talking at once, okay? Go ahead.
No, I just think there has to be a level of intellectual honesty. And one of the things we can talk about here when we talk about Donald Trump is he's actually somebody who never spoke out about George Floyd's death. And for me, it's kind of personal because as a black man, when you have someone with a knee on their neck for 9 minutes and some change and you're actually calling out for your mother while you're being suffocated on national TV. And
for the second theatrical performance in a row, by the way, he did the same thing 3 years earlier. If people...
He also wasn't suffocated on national TV. Someone recorded it with a cell phone video, and a whole bunch of people watched it afterwards on the internet.
You are a parent and a son and a brother, that goes a long way. The kind of disingenuity or dishonesty for me is you cannot say that what happened during that time period is to blame for the deaths of other black men due to violence or what have you.
You can, because people did studies on this who were not right-wingers, by the way.
Is to blame for the deaths of other black men due to violence or what have you.
100% happened.
But that literally, and my point to you is that makes absolutely no sense. And I would argue to you as somebody that I'm not coming from a perspective where I want fewer police. I don't. I want police actually to be paid more. I just want better police, more qualified police. I want there to be a database where police, if they commit bad acts, they can't just go from one department to another. That's criminal justice reform.
Okay.
But George Floyd didn't cause 15,000.
And here, before you jump in, I mean, we should know that we're talking about things that happened when Donald Trump was president.
Right.
He was the president.
But, so now the 15,000 did get killed.
Yeah.
But Trump did it now.
Right.
That's right. I mean, they are so unprepared for this. He really, I mean, this is such a...
I think he was surprised that they weren't prepared for that.
No, it's like they so needed the easy narrative. So needed it. And that's why, and I guess...
But of course, I mean, like, on the one hand, the baby is trying to come into this room and see us. On the other hand, I do want to talk about this Atlantic article. We'll have to save this for tomorrow. Maybe we'll do an early-ish show tomorrow.
Right.
And take care of that, because I do want to talk about this perspective of the left that when things go, they implement the policies that they want to implement, that they say are going to be great policies, and everything goes wrong from start to finish. And then they look around and they say, who could have predicted it? There's no way to stop all these problems. And it's the exact things that everyone warned them would happen if they implemented these policies. So a bunch of right-wingers who were like, if you implement this policy, XYZ is going to happen. And they go, wow, XYZ happened. Was there any possible way to stop XYZ? Mm-hmm. We can't think of anything. We can't think of anything that would
We'll get into that more tomorrow.
That's
a great thing to say. Let's go to the chat, shall we, Alice?
Yes, let's do the chat. Brought to us, of course, by Chelsea Fire Wicked Hot Sauce. Great hot sauce.
Hello, darlings. I think we all should try to get her name right if she's going to be the Commander-in-Chief, the El Presidente, the El Jefe. We must get it done right. We can't be knuckle draggers. Here. It is Kamala.
No,
it is not Camilla. What are you, in some middle school? I don't even know. Oh, it infuriates me.
Yeah, I think it's Kamala.
I only wish she would have picked someone with more substance for her running mate. Somebody with a brain. Somebody that didn't have... it frustrates me. Somebody who didn't have a baboon's ass for a brain. My God! Ta-ta!
Very theatrical. Who's that supposed to be, though?
I don't know.
I'd like to know the name of the actor and actress. Mike from Barry. Is this Barry from Vermont, Alice?
Long-time listener of the Burn Barrel here.
Hey, Mike.
Gotta say, the chat used to be good. Then Steve from Gloucester went away, and it became great. Now he's back. Can we please stop letting him on it? It'll be better for everybody.
Uh-oh, Mike, you just got yourself targeted, my friend. I guarantee you. Let me know if that's Barry, Vermont, by the way.
Habibis, I don't know if this is going to get in time for the Wednesday chat, but I've been meaning to tell you that I was struggling about what I can do besides making donations to make a difference in this national election. And because we know trying to change hearts and minds around here and stupid ass Facebook with, I'm sorry, all of our moron friends and family who still want to vote Democrat, why waste our time? I have been looking into Scott Pressler's app for Pennsylvania and Turning Point Actions. It's essentially the same app for Pennsylvania and other swing states. And they connect people that want to take action, like texting, sending postcards, and phone banking to help people to register or to help people to encourage people to vote through the apps. And I've just started that in the last couple of days because, not going to lie, they're buggy and the scripts are frankly dumb.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a wonderful way for your individual who's in a doesn't matter what you do state like this to be able to have a personal impact on the states where it matters. So I will continue to report into you guys and let you know how it's going and if I get into a smooth groove with this, because I imagine there's other people around here that would like to do something. And just going to say, Turning Point Action, people have mixed feelings about them, but at least this crew, unlike, let's say, the National Review folks and whoever, the Ivory Tower folks that just want to opine about stuff, the Turning Point Action is putting people on the ground actually making some change in this election. Love you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. That stuff makes a difference. It really, really does. And much more so than up here where we live. Appreciate that, Leslie. That's a good point. If you want to call in and leave a message for the chat, that's at burnbarrelpodcast.com. If you like listening to the podcast for free, that's also where to go. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the normal places. If you want to join us for live chats and stuff like that, patreon.com/burnbarrel.
C'est la vie.